Thank you for attending our talk on data-driven resident education. My name is George Villanillam, and I'm a PGY4 radiology resident at the University of Arkansas. We do not have any relevant disclosures pertaining to this talk. It's helpful to start by describing what we mean by non-data driven education. This means subjecting residents to fixed rotation schedules, usually on the basis of labor needs or ACGME requirements. And this also means residents get to experience whatever cases walk in the door without additional control over their case experience. Finally, residents only get feedback about their case volume on an episodic basis, either annually or semi annually, whenever the PACS administrator gets around to running a basic report to hand over to the program director. But this report tells them nothing about whether their case volume is low, normal, or high. And this is what we mean by non-data driven education. Now, if this sounds familiar to you, that's because that's how the vast majority of our residency training is conducted. Now let's contrast this against what we are calling data-driven resident education. In this different approach, resident schedules are decided dynamically based on resident needs. And as a result, we are able to accommodate the personalized education goals of residents toward whatever subspecialty they are interested in. And finally, residents also have access to real time, on demand analytics about their case volume in granular detail. Now, this allows them to shape their educational experience actively throughout their day. Now, what are the building blocks of data-driven approach to resident education? First, we need reliable case logs. And second, statistics on those case logs need to be easily and continuously available to both residents and faculty. Third, rotations must be allocated based on need in relation to objective measures of case experience and not just work requirements or ACGME requirements. Finally, objective measures of clinical competence are needed to hold both residents and faculty accountable. So, here are the four building blocks of data driven resident education. And the goal of all of this is to achieve consistently outstanding training for each individual resident, taking into consideration their own personal aspirations, regardless of the vagaries of clinical volume. Now, we're no stranger to the ACGME case log system, and we know that it is inadequate to support this data driven proposal. As all of this data is self reported, which means you cannot accurately rely on that information. And because the data is entirely manually entered, there is no way for the system to scale to the typical volumes. And third, there is no support within the ACGME portal for visualization should you need in order to act on that case data. But people are already moving beyond the limitation of the ACGME case log in order to support data driven resident education. And here are just two examples from recent literature. I'm not going to bore you by going into the details, but these papers do suggest that automated case analytics could be hugely beneficial to resident education. And that is why we decided to explore this possibility over the past 2 years with an easy to use platform called Orbit Cases. And here is a diagram that shows how cases flow between the residency program and Orbit Cases. First, our server at UAMS, that is our program, sends case log data every 30 minutes as a simple CSV file, and other programs are also doing this in parallel. Next, the Orbit Cases server processes this data and updates the resident and faculty dashboards nearly 50 times a day. And in this way, residents and faculty have continually updated access to case analytics, including, very interestingly, cross institutional comparisons. So let me show you a few screenshots from the application. Here you can see that individual residents can watch their cases rolling in on an activity feed, including celebrations making personal records. And on this view, residents can also understand their case volume as a function of the month into residency, including percentile data computed versus their peers. And because Orbit uses exam names instead of CPT codes, there is substantial granularity in tracking case types. Here we have almost over 300 case types tracked. So let me show you a few case examples where we've incorporated these real-time analytics into resident education at our program over the past couple of years. We've assigned rotations dynamically on the basis of unanticipated variations in case volume, for example, during the COVID-19 pandemic. If you look at resident A versus resident B, although resident B has an overall fewer number of cases, both residents experienced a dip in case volume in October of 2022. Now, this sort of difference in case volume has helped us modify rotation schedules to assist the underexposed resident. We've also tracked case volume in critical study types to make sure the R1 residents are properly exposed before taking call. And here are some of the most critical study types for taking call: CT head, CT cervical spine, CTA head and neck, and the CT PE protocol. And as you can see, we use this algorithm to act on this R1 case experience, depending not only on percentiles, but also raw numbers of cases. We've also been able to allocate rotations to ensure ACGME goals are met in timely fashion. For example, in this resident, we assigned them more rotations in breast, pet, and thoracic to close out their rings on their ACGME goals. And for this resident who was interested in pursuing a neuroradiology fellowship, we were able to rapidly identify that the resident was deficient in subspecialty experience related to MRI neck or functional MRI and MRI seizure protocols. So these were just examples of individual case types, but with a foundation of robust case analytics, we can strive towards a vision of personalized, objective, and equitable training programs. Now, if you've heard about ChatGPT, we're also opening up a call for collaborators today. And that will combine the power of large language models with case analytics to reveal detailed insights on how case experience varies across institution types. Now, if you wondered where your institution ranks versus other similar sized programs in terms of case volume, this is your chance to find out. We will keep the identities of individual institutions confidential, but all the while providing a window into the cohorts of institutions like medium-sized academic medical centers versus medium-sized community programs, or large-sized community programs versus large-sized academic programs, or anything of that sort. You can be faculty, resident, or even a fellow to collaborate. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at this address, and thank you so much for your attention.